Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. It's been a busy week in local news, and that gave us plenty to discuss with our guests on our daily talk show, Barnstable This Morning. Our BTM Week in Review begins with part of our Monday, September 13th discussion with Cape Cod Community College Communications Director Michael Gross about the challenges facing 4Cs due to substantial state funding cuts. Our discussion stemmed from recent comments made by State Higher Education Commissioner Richard Freeland, who said that we're mortgaging the future of the state by not placing a higher priority on our public colleges. I want to throw out this statistic. I know you know it, but for our viewers, between 2004 and 2009, Massachusetts has cut state appropriations per student by more than 13%, while in the same time nationally, public higher ed appropriations have increased by 4%. So that's a 17% swing between Massachusetts and the rest of the nation. And I'll just kind of open it up to you there, Michael. What are you dealing with at 4Cs?
Well, and added to that situation, if I were to go back and add up all the enrollment increases that we had in that 5-year period, so nationally the funding gap is 17%, and you add on to that the enrollment that probably went up somewhere in the ballpark of 13, 14%, probably more. We were seeing enrollments of 3, 4, and 5% every year. That is a massive challenge because you don't get to keep all the money that you get from all of those new students. That happens to be the way the state funding formula goes. And what it really forces you to do is to look very, very hard at what it is you really do as an institution, what is critically important for your region. We start looking even harder at what we call core mission. And things do start to go away. And there are numerous examples of that over the last 5 years that we've just had to make decisions that we really didn't like to make, one of which was over those periods of time to actually increase student tuition and fees on our campus, something we find completely against our mission of open access, affordable access to excellence.
On Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of this past week, the Cape Cod Times ran a series of articles shedding light on the causes for and impact of the rapidly growing problem of prescription drug abuse here on Cape Cod. Police Chief Paul McDonald joined us on Tuesday, September 14th to give us his take on the epidemic and some of the steps he believes are necessary to stop it.
It probably begins at the home. You know, things have completely reversed itself in the last 5 years. You know, now 2/3 of the drug case that we investigate involving pills. As regards to 5 years ago, it was all cocaine, heroin, and marijuana, and now it's completely changed. You know, 70% of it now is pills, and 30% of it is cocaine, heroin. You know, 5 years ago, it was the completely opposite.
There are, kids taking stuff out of their parents' medicine cabinets. There are doctors who are too quick with the prescription pad. There are chronically ill seniors selling their prescription medications to kids. Is it even remotely possible to police this, considering how many avenues that young people have to get their hands on this stuff?
Well, there has to be a better monitoring system. I mean, you know, the so-called doctor shopping, going from one doctor to the next doctor and filling these prescriptions, 4 or 5 prescriptions in the course of a month for, perhaps up to a couple of hundred pills from different doctors. But there has to be a monitoring system for those prescriptions being filled. You know, the pharmacies have to get together with the state. And I know the Department of Public Health are in the process of doing that now, but there has to be some type of flagging system where if the same person is having prescription filled for the same type of medication for 2 or 3 times the course of a month, that has to be brought to our attention.
A number of our guests have been telling us that a major factor contributing to problems with the homeless in downtown Hyannis is the NOAA shelter, its size and its policies, or lack thereof, on who can stay there and for how long. But Housing Assistance Corporation CEO Rick Presbury indicated to local leaders this week that some changes may finally be coming. Hyannis Main Street Bid Executive Director Elizabeth Werfbane joined us on Wednesday, September 15th to tell us what she heard.
Yes, I mean, as you know, there's a subcommittee that was created by the NOAA shelter to analyze, how they would evolve the shelter away from the Main Street Initiative. But Rick Presby went to the Main Street Initiative yesterday and reported that, indeed, their goal really is to reduce the shelter to about 20 beds, and 60 now, and their goal is to have wraparound services and to revamp how they allow people in.
I wonder then if you feel like this is a success. Do you feel like you're getting what you had hoped to get out of this situation?
I hope so. I really am. I'm an optimist, and and I'm not. I haven't been here for 20 years, so I don't have that history of disappointments that others may have had. But I see it as the moment where there's been a turnaround, or the change, the shift, and it couldn't come at a better time because I think that the public really sees, like what you said, what works and what doesn't, and they understand it in a more intelligent manner. 10 years ago, we didn't really understand homelessness and that there are different grades of homelessness and different ways to manage it, and there actually can be success.
The degradation of our coastal waters continues to be one of the hottest topics of conversation in town, and more food for thought was thrown into the mix this week as state environmental officials visited Town Hall to present a report on the Lewis Bay system. The report concluded that up to 73% of the nitrogen entering the bay each day needs to be eliminated in order to preserve a healthy marine environment. So we spent our weekly water protection segment on Thursday, September 16th with Dr. Dale Sod of Barnstable DPW, who gave us her reaction to the study and a primer in nitrogen loading.
Well, this report is very timely, as you know, because of the vote that's coming up in November. We realize that when people look at this, they say, well, this isn't as bad as what we've seen in some of our other embayments. Some of those other embayments we have to even remove more, like in the Three Bays area. But still, it's a concern. That is a high amount. And the one way that we know right now, that especially for the Lewis Bay area, that we can remove this high amount of nitrogen is actually through sewering. It's the most cost-effective for this area in particular because we already have a treatment facility nearby and ready to take this material in there and treat it for us.
All right, let's talk a little bit about nitrogen loading then, Dale. This is a two-word phrase that I've heard many, many, many times over the course of the last 2 years or so. So I'll ask you to just go right back to the basics. What is it?
Okay, nitrogen, it's something that's natural. It comes from us, it comes from birds, it comes from wildlife. How it gets into our water is basically we go to the bathroom. Mother Nature goes to the bathroom with the animals. That's one of the largest ways of this waste getting into the environment. Mother Nature actually uses this and recycles it. That's fine, but when you have a high concentration of people putting a lot of this material in it, Mother Nature handles it in a slightly different way. It gets into our water bodies, especially the marine water bodies, and what happens is algae start to grow, decay, and then we have this cycling effect that goes on. We have all this algae that comes, it grows, it blocks off and shades other plants that are good for us, good for the environment, that helps our environment produce shellfish and other, critters like, different fish species. When that algae goes through its natural cycle and decays, it goes to the bottom, it causes that wonderful sandy bottom that we used to have to change actually to a muck, very thick and heavy. It makes it an environment that's very hard for organisms to live. The dissolved oxygen level goes in plants, especially early in the morning, and we'll have fish kills and shellfish kills. What lands up is a place that we're not so sure we want to go shellfishing, if there's even shellfish there, or even going swimming, especially when you get that heavy, thick algae in the water. That's not good for anybody.
Remember, if you'd like to see any of these complete interviews, they're all available online. You can find them in the town's video archives at town.barnstable.ma.us. Well, that's all for now. I'm Nick Cortez. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.